welcome to GameSpot's Now Playing. In this edition, we're going to be looking at Dominion mode for League of Legends. We're joined here by Richard of Riot. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, no problem. Great to be here.
Okay, so Richard, League of Legends, of course, we know it's free-to-play. I guess they call it a multiplayer online battle arena or something like that. Long and short of it is, every player has their own kind of individual hero unit. You play on teams of 5 on this big, huge map called Summoner's Rift. Your hero is kind of killing minions, gaining experience points. The ultimate goal is to push through to the enemy base and kind of smash the enemy before they do it to you. But now we're unveiling a whole new map, whole new mode with Dominion. What is Dominion? Tell us about it.
So Dominion is basically a complete introduction of capture and hold gameplay to the MOBA genre. When we look at the MOBA genre as a whole, it's basically been defined by kind of this 3-lane map layout that's had some modifications through the ages, but basically it's always centered around that core gameplay. And Dominion is our chance to really show that the MOBA genre as a whole is much broader and much deeper than that. That you can do a lot more with this type of gameplay. So it's a very fast, very high intensity game. Based around constant conflict. The idea is there are 5 capture points on the map, and whenever your team controls more capture points than the opposing team, you actually deal damage to the opposing team's nexus, the big base structure that both teams control. Once the nexus reaches 0 health, it explodes and the game ends. Average game time is about 20 minutes right now.
So Dominion, totally new game mode for League of Legends. Very, very different pace. Yeah, a lot more aggressive, a lot more combat. And I think we actually have the game up and running now, so why don't we just go ahead and take a look?
Awesome.
So it looks like we've loaded up, we're in the map now. This is a new map called the Crystal Scar, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
So we've got if you can see in the mini map at the bottom right, we've got those 5 control points there, and that's kind of the name of the game. That's the meat and the potatoes. And then at the top of the screen, we've got the point score. Can you tell us about how that works, Richard?
Sure. So the UI element at the top center represents the health of the nexus for both teams. At the beginning of the game, the nexus for both teams begins at 500 health, and you start to deal damage to the opposing team's nexus as you capture points and control more than the opposing team. So typically at the beginning of the game, all 5 capture points begin neutralized, and after a minute and a half, basically the gates drop and there's a mad land grab. What we're seeing here right now is actually a big contest occurring at the top point. The top point, the windmill, is the only point on the map that's equidistant from both teams. Right. So you're pretty much always guaranteed that you'll see a 3-on-3, 4v4 style team fight there. And whoever wins that battle begins to kind of shape the direction of the game for the next 4 or 5 minutes.
Right, yeah, I mean the match just started and we just saw a whole bunch of level 4s just pounding on each other like right out the gate pretty much. So it looks like we've got some minion action going on there, and the minions also play a different role in Dominion as well, right?
Yeah, definitely true. So in Summoner's Rift and most MOBAs, minions kind of serve as a resource mechanic. You want to farm them and basically control them so that you can kill them and get the gold for yourself while denying it to the opposing team. In Dominion, since so much of the gold comes through capturing points and just ambiently through the map, minions serve a much different purpose. Here in Dominion, minions will spawn between adjacent control points that are owned by opposite teams. And what they'll do is they'll just basically start walking to the opposing control point. Once they reach that location, they'll begin capturing it for the opposing team. And they have a little bit different rules about capturing a point than champions do. Champions, when you're capturing a point, you can be interrupted by basically any damage source from another champion, auto attacks, spells, etc. Minions can only be stopped in capturing a point by killing them. So they're a great siege mechanic if there's a single defender on a point.
Okay, it looks like we're headed to the center here. We're trying to pick up a storm shield here, and now, okay, we've got this character equipped with the storm shield, and now his attacks are going to be much more.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about the storm shield is, in addition to giving you a big beefy shield that scales over the course of the game and increasing the damage of all your attacks, it actually makes you bigger, and so it really gives this kind of sense that you're like dominating your opponent. And here, if he engages, I'm pretty sure we'll see that Rammus fall quite quickly. But certain characters like Cho'Gath, as an example, who has an ability that makes him physically larger, when you get a fully feasted Cho'Gath and the Storm Shield, you literally become Godzilla walking around the map. It's pretty hilarious to see.
We've seen this character, he's kind of been, kind of moving around at the center of the map. There are these interstitial new, I guess, boost enhancement items. We saw him pick up a heal earlier and also walk past a speed boost. How did those work?
So speed shrines, which you can see on the mini map as kind of the boot icon, are basically these areas that anytime you walk through it from either team, you'll get a short, like 15-second large speed boost. Basically a way to allow you to capitalize on opportunities that you may see across the map, creating kind of a highway of sorts. And those persist through the entire game, and basically anytime someone runs through them, they'll get them. The other thing that you mentioned is our health relics that are on the map, and those are represented by the green crosses you can see on the minimap. These are basically short respawn consumable items that respawn about 30 seconds or so. And anytime you run over one of those items, you'll get a health boost and also a mana boost as well. It kind of serves a similar function to like med packs in many FPSs do.
Yeah, I mean, we were playing the game earlier, and it just seems like because the map is laid out in this way, and because there are these speed and health boosts out there, you're much more encouraged to get out there and move around and do stuff rather than let's hang out by this one tower and hopefully we'll eventually chip it down. Now it's, hey, I'm getting killed. I'm gonna run for the nearest health, then run for a speed boost, try to get out of there. So it really seems like it changes the pace of the match.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that, like going back to your base and charging up, like while it's useful from a gameplay balance perspective to create attrition and a sense of cost associated with doing so, it's ultimately not that fun to be continually forced back to do it. So by adding health packs, it was a good way to allow characters who don't typically have a healing spell or other sustained mechanisms to still stay out on the field, similar to how those that do can.
Right. Okay, so looking at the match, it looks like blue is up a little bit on points here, but that's, I mean, we saw earlier in the matches we played, small point leads don't always mean a whole lot.
Yeah, and even right now, even though the blue team is up by, it looks like about 40 points, they're losing ground to the purple team. You can see purple team controls 3 capture points on the map compared to the blue team's 2. And so, even though they have a lead right now, what the state will be in a minute from now is really tough to say.
Yep.
So here you can see a champion capturing point along with minion support. And he was interrupted by Teemo attacking him. So this type of gameplay particularly for ranged characters, of kind of poking a champion, preventing him from capturing the point, and then allowing your higher DPS champions to come in and engage, is a really important part of the gameplay. It kind of creates almost in many ways kind of a whack-a-mole mini game, and it creates a really interesting dynamic, particularly when 2 champions are trying to attack a point at the same time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's more to capturing and holding a point than just I'll walk up to it, I'll capture it, because as you mentioned, I guess you can't capture a point if you've been hit. And at the same time, there's also, I guess, different stages of capture. You're not just saying, okay, the point is held by the enemy team, I walked up to it, now I flipped it. You have to first turn it neutral. And so there's kind of a meta game there saying, okay, I've got enough time to maybe flip this point to being neutral. And I won't capture the point from my team, but at least I'll deny kind of the points of the enemy team.
One big distinction we did with the core capture mechanics of Dominion that differs from a lot of implementations of capture and hold is that if you are interrupted when you're doing the capture, the progress doesn't reset. So you may be familiar with a lot of games that have a long capture time, and then if you get shot at the very last second, then you have to sit there again and channel for like 20 seconds or so, right? The idea of attrition around capturing point and the idea that sieging a point should be an effective strategy plays a big part in Dominion. So here at this point you can see the red particle kind of representing the current capture state of the map, and now it's been transitioned to neutral. Who will likely be able to capture this point, even though Teemo was able to interrupt his capture. His minion support continued to aggress on the point, and looks like he was able to get it for his team because of the minion support.
Yeah, just like that, it looked like the other team is taking the lead.
It's turned around. It's 40 points now in purple team's favor, and they still control 3 points on the map opposed to the blue team's 2. Unless blue team's able to start capitalizing on this, probably not going to be a good spot for them.
We were mentioning it earlier, and we're seeing it also at the footage, is we're watching just lots and lots and lots of combat. So, I think a lot of people at home might be wondering, well, okay, that's great that this is, much more aggressive, much more action, but, I maybe play a different character. Maybe I play a support character, maybe I play a mage character. What is my role going to be? How are things going to change for some of the different hero types and hero rules in the game?
So as I said, our goal was to make sure that every champion in the game was viable and fun on the map. Now, that being said, a lot of champions that you're familiar with on Summer's Rift will actually have a different role and a different gameplay style on Dominion, which actually kind of creates this cool concept of, in many ways, you're relearning the game. You're getting that rush of exploration and excitement as you figure out those new, unique strategies. A good example of this type of dynamic shift is Ashe, who's one of our most popular ranged DPS champions. In Summoner's Rift, she plays the role of a heavy DPS character who's great at quickly killing dudes and like dominating team fights. In Dominion, since the level gap remains a lot closer, her role comes back to now controlling the battlefield and forcing engagements when the other team doesn't want to participate in them. She's actually quite effective at the role and really very frustrating as well. It's a pretty cool experience to see how that works out.
Okay, so we're seeing some more heavy skirmishing here, and it looks like blue team is capture the majority of the points here.
Yeah, so as you can see, multiple people can capture a point at the same time for a team, and when you do that, it actually increases the rate of capture on the point. It's not like 200%, 300%, but it does make it faster, and it kind of creates this idea of a trade-off. Maybe, like in this case that's going on right now, where the purple team's aggressing on a point that's very close to blue team's base, having multiple people capture a point at the same time allows them to capture the point here as they did. Whereas some other times you might have to do the trade-off of, well, do we actually want 4 guys capturing this single point and leaving the defenses open for the other team to take advantage of, or should we split apart and kind of attack everything solo?
Right, and also it seems like there's a very new and very important role for speed boosts and speed items, because in some cases maybe some characters can't dish out a lot of punishment on the front lines, but they can sneak around the back and maybe grab a control point while no one's looking.
Yeah, Rammus is actually a really good example of this. He is an extremely fast tanky character who's great at capturing points across the map and then holding on to them, but his actual ability to neutralize characters in a one-on-one battle is fairly low compared to like assassins or other ranged DPS champions. So it creates a kind of a neat trade-off where he wants to engage on opposing players, but then has to consider, is that really the best use of his time at the given moment? One thing that's been interesting for us internally is kind of figuring out, like, even amongst the developers, what the meta for the game would be. And there have been a lot of times where we might say, oh, like, bruiser characters are going to dominate on this map. And then we try it and we're like, well, no, that's like, you need kind of a mix of casters and assassins. And then maybe we're like, oh, well, if you have a bunch of characters who move really quickly, you'll be able to capture the points before the opposing team does. And that works, but one of the things that we've discovered is, because Dominion is constant movement from one fight to another, each individual battle may be in a drastically different context than the one that you fought before. And if your team focuses on a singular strategy like stacking move speed or stacking bruisers, you can't effectively adapt to the strategies of the opposing team. So it's been neat to see that even in a game mode completely different than Summer's Rift, having a balanced team comp that can allow you to adapt to a lot of different situations is still a very important part of the game.
Sure. And as we've been speaking, it looks like blue has taken a sizable lead. Well, relatively speaking, a sizable lead. And but the thing is, we were playing a match earlier where I think my team was down.
You were down 300.
Yeah, 300 points, and we came back and won. So really, it seems like the pace is really about kind of ebb and flow, and you really don't know what's going to happen until the end, and that's probably best. I think we've had those matches in Summoner's Rift where let's say their phone rang or something like that, and they had to go away from the keyboard, and you find yourself, all your inhibitors got messed up, your towers are done, and everyone's just voting to surrender. Whereas here, it really seems like it's kind of like, hey, you may be down, but you're not out necessarily yet.
One of the interesting stories that we have from our development is, up until about the point where we started the beta on live, a lot of the developers on the team who worked on Dominion didn't even know if surrender worked in the game, because it never even crossed our mind that we shouldn't be playing these games to the end. Because we've had, like, the very first game we tried with this scoring system ended up being a 1-0 victory for a team that previously was down 100 points. So it really, like, it's great to feel that there's never a sense of like you can't come back from this. That was one thing that we really focused on design side to encourage that up to the very last moment of the game.
Okay, well, blue is, they're sitting on a pretty sizable lead, and now we're capturing, I guess, the top point here as well.
It's, unfortunately, I'm having, yeah, so it looks like blue controls 4 points to purple team's 1. And when you control the rate of decrease and damage to the opposing team's nexus depends on basically the number of points that you can control compared to the opposing team. So the fact that for that brief period, blue team controlled 4 points to the opposing team's 1 actually meant they were doing more damage to the nexus than they are now when it's 3-2. Talking a little bit about the art on the map for a moment, as this kind of settles down to the end game. The Crystal Scar is, in large part, a big departure from how we've done our art on our previous instances. Like Summoner's Rift and Twisted Tree Line are both very natural maps set in forests with rivers and etc. Crystal Scar is our first attempt at really showing what man-made structures in League of Legends look like. It's set in the mining town of Kalamanda, and there are a lot of art features that we added here that we think really bring up the visual quality as a whole. Ground blends, I think in particular, make a lot of the moving around the map look great, and you can see here next to the capture point that we're walking by, we added animated structures around all the capture points that really breathe life into the world.
Definitely a lot more visually interesting, and I think purple is really gonna have to pick it up.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be tough. All they need to do though is just capture 2 points, and they should be able to turn this around. We'll have to see what ends up happening. So it looks like, let's see, Singed is trying to capture the top point for purple. No one's going to be able to come there and stop him. But in the meantime, he blew past Yi, who's capturing northeast, so that'll just be a trade for both teams.
13 points. It's not looking good.
Not looking good, particularly since it looks like purple team decided to bunch up and engage here in this last big team fight. That's exactly what the blue team would have wanted. If they had split up and maybe captured the bottom left and bottom right points, they may have been able to pull that out.
And kaboom, it looks like the Nexus just went up.
Yep.
Victory.
That was a game of League of Legends. I mean, again, this is, League of Legends, it's a a very popular game. A bunch of people play it. There's a lot of depth, a lot of strategy, but sometimes that ends up in games that go for an hour or north of an hour, and it really seems like, as we've talked about, Dominion is much faster, a much faster paced game, a much shorter game. I think you mentioned that the longest game you guys have recorded has been less than half an hour.
Yeah, of the 600 or so games we've played internally, I think the longest game time we've had is actually 26 minutes. It's a very consistent 22 minute experience as a whole, which is great for me personally because I used to play a lot of Summoner's Rift during lunch breaks, right? And even though Summoner's Rift is also fairly consistent 35-40 minute gameplay experience, there's always that risk that the game will go an hour 10. With Dominion, you don't run into that. In addition, that I think is worth pointing out, the display of stats in the game has actually shifted around a bit. The KDA is still displayed there, and you can see points captured and points neutralized, but that far right column represents your personal score. In Dominion, we did a lot to de-emphasize the penalties associated with death. The amount of gold that you gain from kills is reduced, the death timers are much more neutralized, and we did that because we wanted you as a tank who's sitting there on your last capture point defending against 3 enemies on the opposing team, and knowing that you're dying in the process, to still feel good about that encounter, because ultimately, one guy holding off 3 individuals and dying in the process is still beneficial, because that allows the rest of your team to then go through the map and capitalize on the lack of defenses that the opposing team has. So along that line, we created a personal score system, which we think better represents now how well you're doing in the game compared to KDA. And so you get points for killing and assists, but you also get points for capturing points, neutralizing points, and preventing the opposing team from doing the same.
That was our look at Dominion. We understand the beta is now underway, and I guess the actual game mode is going to launch soon.
So we did a limited beta actually just this morning where we had a 2-hour testing window on our North American servers. The idea of where we are right now in the production is actually a gameplay development has finished on the menu. We're just waiting for feedback and hoping to give it to the players like as quickly as we can. What we're doing right now is we're going to be continuing to do our limited beta phases and expanding them as we get feedback from statistics on our servers and seeing how they're performing. And then ultimately we hope to get to the point where we can turn it on live, and it will be a great experience for everyone who's playing the game as opposed to just a few people who manage to play during off-peak hours.
Okay, very cool. So that was Dominion mode for League of Legends coming out very, very soon. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.